I'm Sam from Oxygen Tech, and today we're going to build a command line application with Dart.
Okay, so the first thing you're going to need to do is to ensure you've installed the Dart SDK, and the easiest way to do that is by installing Flutter, especially since we're probably going to use it in the future anyway. So navigate to flutter.dev, hover over docs and click on install Flutter. Now I'm not going to run through this step by step, I'm just going to give you a basic overview. There are videos available that run you through how to install Flutter on your device. I would recommend following along. If you have any issues, feel free to leave a comment. I'd be happy to help where I can, but I'll just give you a quick overview. So as I'm on a Mac, it has recommended the current device, or what's selected the current device for me. So I'll choose Mac OS, and it has recommended iOS since I'm on a Mac. So I'll click there, and then this is where it'll run through step by step. First thing, it suggests hardware requirements. So it says minimum 4 CPU cores. On the Mac I'm using now, I have 2 cores. It still works, it's slow. It might be frustrating for you. So it would be better if you had one with 8 CPU cores, but don't be deterred if you only have a dual processor, because it'll still work. I have 8 gig of RAM. Again, it recommends having 16, and probably the main thing, you need disk space. So it recommends having 70 gigabytes free on your disk, and that'll make things easier when you're trying to install. It'll make it quicker, and you'll be able to install. So software requirements, just make sure your operating system's up to date. So this is just configuring your terminal. Just follow through that if needed. You will need to download Xcode and CocoaPods for iOS development. The main thing today is to get an integrated development environment, so an IDE, which I use Visual Studio Code. Flutter recommends installing Flutter through VS Code, so that's ideal. So what you want to do is click Visual Studio Code here, install it on your computer, and then get the Flutter extension for VS Code, download that on VS Code, and then you should be able to use Flutter. So it will download the Flutter SDK, which is Software Development Kit, which is what Flutter is. So it'll go through these steps. This is just describing what's happening as it loads. You'll be prompted to add the Flutter SDK to your path. Now this part is important to us. I would say yes here, so you can use Flutter from a terminal outside of VS Code if you want to. So with that, we want to ensure that you have Dart on your path as well. So to just demonstrate this, I've just jotted down how you can find out what's on your path, where your Dart SDK is, and how to add Dart to your SDK. Because Flutter will be added if you agree to that prompt there. If you say yes, Flutter will be added, but Dart will not be added to your path. It'll be installed, but you won't be able to access it in your terminal unless you follow these steps. So I'll just get my terminal up, zoom in a little bit. So echo path is, I'm not going to hit enter here just for security reasons, but echo path, if you type that in with the $sign in front of path, so that's the path variable, hit enter, and it'll have a list of paths separated by colons. So for example, this could be your SDK path. So it could be users, your username. You might have a folder called development or developer or something like that. And then this is the way Flutter was installed for me, so I suspect it might be the same for you, unless things have changed since then. So development, then Flutter, then navigate to bin, then cache, then Dart SDK/bin. So if you can't find Dart SDK/bin in your path when it prints, then you need to add it to your path. So the first thing you'll have to do is find where it's located. So if it's not in this location, I would just open your Finder and type in Dart-SDK, and it should show you, and make sure you have bin at the end when we add it. So just to demonstrate with what I've written here, so you can export path equals open quotation. So the path as it already is, then you add a colon because the colon separates the different paths in your path variable, and then you might put a forward slash, and then you want the location of where your Dart SDK is. So if you've searched for Dart SDK in your Finder and you found your path, then type it in. So it might be users/ your username, whatever that may be, slash, so for example, it could be developer or development or something like that. Flutter slash bin slash cache slash Dart SDK, and then don't forget to add slash bin on the end, quotation mark, and then hit enter, and that will be added to your path, and then you should be able to access Dart in your terminal. And we can check this by asking it for the Dart versions. So Dart -- version, and then it should say Dart SDK version, whatever version you have installed, and then you're ready to use Dart on your computer. Since we've already got the terminal open, I think we can make a directory from here to store our Dart app. So the first thing we're going to do, type in CD and hit enter. So this is assuming you're on Mac as well. This may not work on Windows or another device. CD will just take you to the home directory. So, and then from there, I want to change directory. I have a folder called developer under my home directory. So your home directory will be the one that's named as your username. So if I navigate to developer, and then from here, I want to make a new folder. So mkdir means make directory. So it's making a new folder. I'm going to call it Dart-apps. From there, I want to navigate to Dart-apps. So I'm now in that folder. And from here, I want to make another directory called mortgage_calculator, which is what we're going to build today. All right, now we can change directories to mortgage_calculator. So this is just a way to move about your system and make folders if you need to from the terminal. And then from here we can open the folder. Open dot. And that has opened the folder. So this is where we want to create our application. So the next thing we want to do is load up Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to open a new window in VS Code. Then from open, we want to navigate to the folder where we've created mortgage calculator. So we're just going to So you might be prompted to see whether you trust the authors of this folder. Yes, I just made it. I do trust myself. And we're going to create a new file. And we are going to call it, so first we're going to do io_test.dart. Make sure we know how to take user input. Okay, from here we're just going to build a little application to show how to use Dart.io, which is input/output. Dart.io, so we have to import it. So let's make a main function, and we're going to, so that's GitHub Copilot, hard at work already. Let's just try to ignore that. Can be helpful at times. So what is your name? That's the first thing we'll print, and then we want to receive input. So this, basically anatomy for that is to save the input into a variable, so like it's just suggested here, but we're going to do that in a try catch block. Now I haven't showed you this before, but it's a good way of catching errors. So try, let's say final name. So final is a keyword for a variable that's not going to change. So I don't have to write final string name, I can just write final name and Dart will work out what it is. So final, once the value is assigned to that variable, it can't be changed during the running of the application. So equals std_in, which is standard input, dot read line sync. So all that's going to do is it'll print what is your name, and then under that will be a line where you'll be able to input some data. So it will type in your name. Let's just zoom in a little bit here. And then after that, we want to print hello name. So that'll print whatever name you put in. So in a try block, you should catch errors. So catch, you can just put E here and it is an error. And then from here we can print, or we can just print the error actually. You can specify a certain error message if you can predict that something might go wrong. So they might put in the wrong data type with here. This is going to read a string. So the standard input takes a string. So from here in VS Code, we can run this. Clicking down here, clicking terminal. Let's move that a bit. So this accesses your terminal. Rather than having your full terminal open like this, you can access it from within VS Code. So that's handy. We'll come back to the main terminal later. But for now, we're just going to test things in here. It'll be a little bit easier because you're already in the folder you want to be in. So from here, we can use the Dart keyword since we have the Dart SDK on our path as before. So we can say Dart run, and then we've got to give the name of this file. So io_test.dart and hit enter. So then here the program is being run in the command line. It's saying, what is your name? I will say Sam and hit enter. And then it says, hello Sam. That's the end of the program. So another one I should show you is if you want to get a different data type, because what is your age? So if you want to get an integer, for example, you have to do this a little differently because the input is always going to be a string. You have to pass it into a string. So pass, P-A-R-S-E, means converting the type of the value into a different type. So again, we're going to put it in a try block. I'm going to say final age equals, and then from here, we want an int. So it's already correct. Generated it for me, so int dot pass. So that's what you wrap around the standard input read line sync. So standard input dot read line sync semicolon. So at this point we can see we're getting an error. That's because the argument is of type string with a question mark, which means the value can be null. It can be no value. So if it asks what's your name and someone just hit enter with no value in, that would be a null value. And that can't be assigned to strings. So what we want to do here is put an exclamation mark, and that tells the program, hey, this is not going to be null. Because if they put nothing, we would just want empty quotation marks rather than null. And if there is an error, this will catch it and print the error. So from here we want to print you are age years old. And then we want to try to catch the error if there is one and print the error. Okay, so let's run the program again. So a quick shortcut here. So first I want to show you how to clear the terminal. Just type clear, hit enter, gets rid of, it can get quite cluttered. And then if you hit the up arrow and up arrow again, it goes through your previous commands. So we're just going to run this again rather than typing it out. So it will ask for my name, Sam. Hello Sam, what is your age? Say 30. It says you're 30 years old. Ends the program. So I want to do this again, but input the wrong values, and let's see how we can catch the errors. So if I just hit enter here, it says hello. So it just captured the empty quotation marks. And what is your age? Let's try put in a string. So it's going to try to convert that into an integer, and it should generate an error because you can't convert that into an integer. There we go, format exception, invalid radix 10 number. So it's an invalid number. So all that's done is printed the error and then exited the program. So that's just a quick overview of input and output. And now we're going to get on to building the mortgage calculator application. Okay, so now that we're done with io_test, we're going to create a new file here. You can just press this button next to the mortgage calculator directory title, So just a little plus button there. And we're going to type in mortgage underscore calculator dot. So it'll create a new file, and we're just going to start by importing what we need. So again, we'll have Dart.io, and we will also have Dart Math for this one, because there will be some calculations that require that when we calculate the mortgage repayments. So Dart Math, it can use the specific function we'll be using here is power, which is gives it to the power of some number. So I'll show you once we get up to it. So first thing, as usual, we want to write main function. Okay, so I'm going to declare the variables that we're going to be using in this program. So the things we're going to have are, so a double, which will be the purchase price, so the cost of the house that you're looking to buy. So we're going to set that as 0 initially. Stamp duty or land transfer duty is something, so I'm in Victoria in Australia, and that's something relevant here. That's like a tax to the government essentially when you transfer land from one name to another name, so to a different owner. So that's something you consider in your costs for purchasing a house. We will have double starting balance, so that's the money that you can contribute to the purchase. Say you have a sum of money in your savings that you'd like to put towards a house to reduce the mortgage loan amount, that we can input as well. So double, so funds needed, we'll call it, and that'll be the funds that you need to borrow to purchase the house. Double interest rate, the interest rate for the repayments, so that'll be a percentage, and we want an integer loan duration, how long the loan will go for. It's typically 30 years, but you can do less obviously as well. And we'll be using the total number of weekly payments. So we'll be using that later. That will make sense once we get further down. Okay, so the things we're going to do here, we're going to create a few functions first that we'll be using in the program. So I've already written out this app and make sure everything works before I record a video making it. So the first thing we're going to do is double calculate stamp duty. So we're going to create a function here. So that'll take in the purchase price. Okay, so I've already calculated this, so I'm going to paste it there. So basically here, if the purchase price is less than $25,000, it will have a 1.4% times the purchase price stamp duty, and then else if different ranges, then it'll have different values. So that's how you basically calculate the stamp duty in Victoria, Australia at the moment. So now we're going to have another function of return type double calculate funds needed, and that's going to take the starting balance, the purchase price, and the stamp duty. And all we'll do here is return, you got it. So that is incorrect, that's why you can't always trust Copilot. Starting balance. Okay, so it'll be the price plus the stamp duty minus the balance that we already have to put in. Okay, so next, calculate weekly payment. So this will be an interesting one. This is the calculation for the mortgage rate. So we're going to need funds needed, which will be calculated in the above function. We will need the interest rate, and we will need the total number of weekly payments. Okay. Now, for this function, we're going to use this formula, which I've got off Google. Basically, that's the purchase price as P, R is the interest rate, N is the number of payment periods. So we're doing weekly payments at the moment. So again, I have written this calculation in Dart. I'm just going to copy and paste it over and then quickly run you through it. So it'll return the funds needed, which will be P, multiplied by this contraption over here, which is interest rate times power. So this power is the mathematical function. So it'll be 1 plus interest rate to the power of total number of weekly payments. So inside the power parentheses, which are the blue parentheses here, you have the first number, which is the base number, and then the power number. So it'll be 1 plus interest rate to the power of total number of weekly payments divided by power of 1 plus interest rate to the power total number of weekly payments minus 1. So that's the mortgage calculation that we will be using. Okay, so they're the main functions I'd like to use today. So we're now going to write the flow of the application, how it's going to work. So first thing we're going to do is print, let's say, I've already got this written, so I'm just going to copy and paste again. Save us a bit of time, this might not be very exciting. So print, welcome to CM's mortgage calculator, which is what I'm calling it in my instance. You can call it whatever you want. Now what we want to do is import house purchase price, and then calculate stamp duty. Then we want to get funds ready to spend. So is starting balance that you already have to spend. Get interest rate. Get loan duration. And after that, we can calculate total number of payments, and then put the results. Okay. So first thing we are going to do is input the house purchase price. So as we've already done, we're going to use the same method as we did in the io_test file. So first we're going to print, please enter the price of the house you wish to purchase, and then we'll try to get this input and pass it to a double rather than an integer this time, because purchase price is of type double as we've declared it. So purchase price will then become that value. We will print an error if one occurs, and we'll exit the application if an error does occur. Okay, so next we will calculate the stamp duty. So here I'm just printing the purchase price that was entered. I'm actually going to move that up here. Just a bit of formatting. So then we're calling the function calculate stamp duty, which we declared up here. So it'll run through the function. It takes the purchase price. It has a look through here. Okay, is it less than 25 grand? Then I'll return this, etc. Okay, so now I've calculated the stamp duty. So the next thing is to print the stamp duty, just to feed back to the user what it put in. So I should explain here that I'm cancelling out this $sign with a backslash, so the $sign actually prints. Because with string interpolation, you use a $sign to print a variable. So here we're going to cancel out the first $sign so that the $sign is actually printed. And then I'm saying purchase price dot toString as fixed to, which means it'll just be to 2 decimal places. Okay, so printing the stamp duty, and then we're getting the input of the funds that are already ready to spend. So the starting balance. So how much money do you have ready to spend on the house before borrowing money? Again, we're going to have a try catch block. So the starting balance will be the input there. And from here, we should be able to calculate the funds needed, how much money needs to be borrowed. So let's calculate that. So we're calling calculate funds needed up here, which takes starting balance, purchase price, and stamp duty, which we have declared and we know what they are now. They have assigned values after the above code. And then we want to get the interest rate. So first I might just do another print statement here. So you have starting balance ready to spend on your house, therefore you need to borrow funds needed. So next we want to get the interest rate. Copy over. Using the same method, we pass it to a double value. We want to get the loan duration. So this is an integer value. Loan duration. Then we want to print what we have. So the interest rate and the loan duration back to the user. And then we want to calculate the total number of payments. So this could have been done in a function, but I just wanted to demonstrate we can just as easily assign it to a variable this way, just to multiply the loan duration by 52, as there are 52 weeks in a year, so 30 times 52 will be the amount of payments over the 30 years. And then we will print the results at the bottom. I'll paste here. So missed weekly payment here, so I've just got a function to calculate the weekly payment, which was that main mortgage formula that took the funds needed, interest rate, and the total number of payments as specified up here. Calculate weekly payment. So this is the main formula. You don't necessarily need to understand it. You can just copy this code and it will work. Okay, just make sure we're not missing anything here. So we just need to make a change to the interest rate actually, because it was taken as a percentage, but we need to convert that to a decimal, and then we need to divide it by 52 to make it weekly. Okay, so now the program's ready to go. So it's going to print your annual repayments, monthly repayments, fortnightly repayments, weekly repayments, and total repayments. So there's been a lot of copy and paste here that we've done, but I just wanted to demonstrate the code you can use, as I don't want this video to go for hours and hours. So let's now run the program. So we could run it from down here, but I think I'd rather do it in the terminal. Okay, so I've cleared the terminal. Now we want to make sure we are in the right directory. So go to the developer folder. In there we've created the Dart apps folder. In there we've created the mortgage, it was underscore, mortgage underscore calculator. Okay, alright, we're in the right folder now, so we can type Dart run mortgage underscore calculator, and the program should run. Okay, so I've made a mistake here by not writing .dart, which is the type of file. So now the program should run. Welcome to Sam's Mortgage Calculator. Please enter the price of the house you wish to purchase. So let's say 600,000. You entered $600,000 as the purchase price of the house. Your stamp duty is $31,070. So given it was 600 grand, it would have fallen within this value here. So it'd be 2,870 plus the purchase price that is greater than 130 grand. So any money spent on it over 130 times 6%, which apparently is this number. So how much money do you have ready to spend on the house? So let's have a wonderful imagination and say I have 50 grand sitting there. Therefore you need to borrow $581,070 to purchase the house. The interest rate, I don't know where you are, but they're quite high in Australia at the moment. Let's say 6%. Duration, let's just default to 30 years. And then it says you entered an interest rate of 6% and a loan duration of 30 years. Your annual repayment is 41 grand, monthly 3.5, fortnightly 1.6 grand, weekly is $803, and the total repayment, this is the kicker, so $1.25 million. So let's run this program again. And just out of curiosity, we'll put in some wrong values and see what happens. So let's say, hello, put in a string. Okay, it said an error occurred, invalid double, because that is a string. All right, let's run one more time. I want to put in an extravagant house and just see how much interest one would pay if their house was over $2 million. So let's say $2,001,001. How much do you have ready? Let's say $1. Interest rate, let's just say 17%. And the loan duration, 30 years. Let's just see how much this comes to. Alright, so you're looking at paying 10 million, nearly 11 million on a $2 million house. So apparently in the 80s here in Australia, the interest rate climbed up to 70%. Obviously houses weren't worth this much, but that would show you just how much interest you're paying on a house of that value. So this has been a command line application developed with Dart. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm sorry I had to rush through the code a little bit there with the print statements. I just didn't want to be here all day and to bore you to tears. If you have any questions, feel free to chuck them in the comments. But if not, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.